Now, if you're a 90s baby like myself, you probably got drug along to the grocery store by your mom, dad, or whoever. And while it was never the most fun adventure, there were maybe two reasons that you look forward to going. Number one, if you were good enough, you might get to pick out that favorite sugary cereal to complement those Saturday morning cartoons. But for me, the best reason to go to my local Kroger was always the opportunity to check out the latest gaming magazines that had all the scoops, everything from GamePro to Nintendo Power to Computer Gaming Magazine would draw you in and allow you to learn about all the latest and greatest in gaming news. But one magazine stood above them all in this era, and that was Electronic Gaming Monthly. While magazines may be a lost art form at this point, there are people out there that are trying to keep these going. Recently, there was a Kickstarter for the EGM Compendium, which I actually backed. I know that's a gamble because Kickstarters usually fail or something holds them up, but this one has actually been coming to fruition. And one of the perks of backing this Kickstarter was that you get an electronic copy of EGM, every single EGM. This is not a sponsored video, but I wanted to shout them out because it's allowed me to go down memory lane, and I thought it'd be cool if we all took a trip. So in my hand, well, on my screen, is EGM number 1. I thought it would be fun to go all the way back to 1989 and see the original EGM and take that trip down memory lane together. So if you're into this type of content, let me know down below. Let me know if there's any particular issues of EGM that you'd like to take this walk with. And yeah, let's just go ahead and get into it. So right as you open it, you see that there is a beautiful ad for Tengen, which they were a big player back then. You had them putting out Tetris and Pac-Man. They were a publisher. These are big hitters, and that just goes to show you in the past 45 years how much gaming has changed, because I don't recognize these guys at all. It's just crazy because they're putting out games for Namco, Atari. Damn, it's wild, guys. Just keep going. So the 1989 preview guide. Cover story, of course, we're gonna be looking at Mega Man. They have video game top 10 and next wave. Press start. We're gonna take a look at Bishu, a company that's taking control of the video game joystick market. Where the fuck is Bishu? I don't even know that name. Dare to compare. I believe they break down Tecmo Bowl versus Quarterback. The home front, taking a shot at the latest Nintendo, Sega, and Atari cards. Their exclusive on-target ratings. Their game of the month. Curious to see what that is. Log on. Boot up your computer this month for adventure, arcade, action, strategy, simulations, and all-out war. And next to that, we see Trade West was bringing us Quarterback. I just find these ads so interesting. You see John Elway next to a young man who, you know, this was that era where they still were like, gaming is for nerds. So, you know, he's a little kid that looks a little nerdy, little small. Pipsqueak almost as a term that the early 90s, late 80s would utilize. But yeah, one great quarterback deserves another. Masters of the game, hot stuff for the Nintendo Entertainment System. We had WWF WrestleMania, Rambo, Airwolf. What even is this? What even is this? 3D World Runner. It wasn't 3D, I can tell you that. Blaster Master was their #1 game. I'm gonna tell you what I remember about Blaster Master was that it was always on that show that had people playing it in arcades on Nickelodeon. I don't think I've ever played Blaster Master. I have played Phantasy Star. I played 1943. Mario Brothers 2, I don't think I've actually played. I have played the original and 3. Of course, Double Dragon, yes. From there, Adventure Island. Sounds familiar, but you know, these are some old games, y'all. If you guys see anything that really jumps out at you that I pass over, please let me know down in the comments below, because I would love to to check it out and learn a little bit more about these games. Mega Man 2, an all-time classic, of course. That is the next wave. It's crazy. 1989. This was the next wave. Think about how far we've come. No, I was just playing Shovel Knight a little bit ago, literally earlier today, because I just had an urge to play on my Vita. And for as far as we've come, there's still games being made today that pay a lot of homage to the early NES Mega Man. So timeless game right there. Strider, of course, the NES version. I didn't even know there was an NES version. I always played it on the Sega Genesis. Hydlide is a game that I've heard of. WrestleMania, man, look at these graphics. That is not the WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game that I'm used to from the mid-90s. For any younger viewers, this one will blow your mind. Before the internet, the way that you would get information was stuff like these phone counseling hotlines. You could call in and get information about these games like Ultima and all that. And you would get tips and tricks and things like that. And you could put your name on the FCI mailing list. So, geez Louise. These are the Bishu joysticks they were talking about. One of the first independent companies to produce joysticks compatible with the Nintendo Entertainment System and Sega Master System has unveiled a wide variety of peripherals ever since the video game boom hit us again in late 1986. Now, I'm not going to take too much credit for it, but I'm just going to say I was born in late 1986. So maybe the coming of the Gamersician was enough to explode the industry again, we'll say. Bishu joysticks, look at that. Soared to new gaming heights with Bishu Zoomer. Whole different meaning to the word Zoomer back then. Power of arcades in the palm of your hand. So this is about the Game Boy, I do believe. The main unit is expected to sell for around $70, while the plug-in carts will retail for around $20. This pricing puts the Nintendo unit in a slightly better position than the last wholly contained game system, the Vectrex, introduced in the early 80s. The fuck is a Vectrex? Bring the arcades home. Look at this. One of the most common dreams shared by diehard gamers everywhere would be owning a coin-operated arcade game of their very own. That is still the dream for many. The eclectic Pro Play arcade cabinet is in many ways the ultimate home video game peripheral. That's pretty dope, man. That looks like a solid cabinet. It looks like right in here, your Nintendo sits in there, and it just has a real nice CRT right here. Say no to drugs, man. Digitized games. This at one point felt like the next big thing. Can you imagine a game called Say No to Drugs nowadays? Oh, it's NARC, sorry. N-A-R-C. Wonder what that stands for. Wonder if it says what it stands for. Butcher blade wielding psychos, thugs armed with hypodermics. Bruh. We on that? It's crazy. Say no to drugs slogan, way to go, Williams. Nancy would be proud. Man, a Nancy Reagan reference. Do y'all even get that? Some of y'all do. In fact, most of my audience probably does, but you know, not all of y'all. Robo Warrior, look at this big old ad. Full 2-page ad. I've never even heard of Robo Warrior. It's a great example of how games can be viewed as so big, and then next thing you know, it's just nothing, you know? Wow, writing into magazines. I remember I used to send drawings to GamePro and Electronic Gaming Monthly and all of those. I don't think I was ever picked because I wasn't too great of an artist. I was decent, but let's see if any of these are interesting. What's going on? I've been waiting for over a year now for my favorite arcade game, 720 Degrees, to show up on the Nintendo Entertainment System. And reading about it, I've seen ads for it, but the guy at my local store doesn't have any idea when it will be available. They get letters asking for release dates, correcting the ones given. Man, a side effect of the chip shortage is limited allocation of games. Instead of getting 2 million copies of a hit game to ship, game companies are getting as few as 50. So there was a chip shortage back then for cartridges, and that was limiting the amount of games that could come out. That's wild. Great game giveaway. Yeah, like you could fill out official entry cards on the back of magazines and mail them back in for a chance to win something. Sheesh, man. The deadline for entries is July 31st, 1989. We are exactly about 46 years too late. I wonder who won that. Pretty dope. They're probably in their late 60s. So shout outs to you. Hope your back's okay. Because I'm not even 40 and I'm already feeling it. Hard driving. I vaguely recall this. Pretty smart to have the ad right next to the review or preview. That was pretty common in these magazines. Gaming gossip. Let's see if there's anything of interest. Tengen, the home software arm of Atari's Game Corp. So there you go. People who make Atari arcade games, not Atari home games, filed a $30 million antitrust. Among other things, claims that Nintendo has unfairly monopolized the NES game market. So for those that don't know, back in the day, and this is a reason that a lot of companies even still have issues with doing business with Nintendo, smaller ones especially, is they used to charge a ridiculous amount per cart or to license the cartridge and all that. So you used to see a lot of companies were jumping ship to Sega because of that reason. It was a lot cheaper to put games out on the Sega Genesis. Another move associated with the lawsuit, the company has released their own line of game packs that will work on the NES. They have busted the security chip that allows the Nintendo games to work with the Nintendo game system and can now make games independent of Nintendo. Wow. Ultima, the great new role-playing game from FCI, has the distinction of being the third Nintendo cart right behind Blockbuster's The Legend of Zelda and its sequel, Adventures of Link, that contains a battery memory backup that can save a game in progress for up to 5 years. Up to 5 years. Battery backup, guys. Sheesh. Supposedly a 4 meg cart with complexity equal to Phantasy Star. The new James Cameron movie, he's the guy behind Aliens and the Terminator, in case you didn't know, depicts a battle between aliens and a crashed starship in the US Navy. So let's jump into Preview 89. Let's see what was coming out in the middle to the end of 1989. From Data East USA, we had Rampage. Now that's a game that I have played and loved, as well as Super Hang-On, the sequel to Hang-On, which was an incredible arcade game. Super dope. And the RoboCop game, I feel like I vaguely recall that. I definitely played it briefly somewhere. Taito. So coming out from Acclaim, not much that I remember, but Taito, I do remember kicks, and Jaleco, hoops and goal. One is a basketball game, and I'm guessing one is a soccer game. Don't recognize either of them. Robo Warrior, no. Let's see what Konami was up to. Ultra? Konami has increased their profile in home gaming by entering the computer software market in a big way and re-entering the NES field with a new subsidiary, Ultra Games. Never heard of Ultra. That's pretty interesting. Metal Gear came out in 1989. Where would we be without Metal Gear? We wouldn't be playing Death Stranding 2 right now, as many of us are. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, we all know and love that. Q*bert, the game, Q*bert. Capcom was up to, of course, Mega Man 2, Strider, bangers. SNK, Prisoner of War. Never played it. I don't think I've ever heard of that. Let's see. Nintendo games planned for release this year. So those were all the games planned and who they were coming from. It's crazy because, like, let's just see who's even still around. Acclaim, gone. Activision, obviously still around. They've just purchased a lot of people. Bandai America, Capcom, Imagesoft, I don't believe so. Culture Brain, no. Data East, I don't think they've been around forever. FCI, HAL, Hudson Soft, oh man, Bloody Roar developers, they're gone. Koei, yes. Konami, yes. Milton Bradley, I think they're only doing board games these days. Romstar, SNK, of course. No. Sunsoft, I don't believe so. Taito, maybe purchased. Tecmo, wow. I mean, most of these are gone or assimilated or something. Man, 16-bit Sizzler. Now, this is interesting because I'm sure this is all about the expected Sega Mega Drive. This was when it was still known as only the Mega Drive and not even the Genesis in the US. This was a big deal, of course, because we were going from 8-bit to 16-bit. The PC Engine, that's something I've heard of. I've never even seen in the wild. I had a friend that had a PC Engine, but it was long gone before I was old enough to like go over there and play with them. So here's the comparison. Tecmo Bowl versus John Elway's quarterback. I'm gonna tell you that Tecmo Bowl is still beloved, and I've never even heard of John Elway's quarterback. So something tells me Tecmo Bowl is the better game. Let's see. Tecmo Bowl, realism, yep, better. Graphics, better. Sound, way better. Computer opponents, way better. 2-player mode, oh, not as good, but barely worse. Bells and whistles, Tecmo Bowl, wow, yeah, look at that. Final grade, A- to C. Sorry, John Elway, your game sucked ass. Try again next life, I guess. Double Trouble, Xenophobe. So these were always cool. You could send these in and get stuff back. You literally just cut this out, put it in an envelope and mail it to this address and you would get stuff. This one looks like it says free Sunsoft game time news. Cool. Star Soldier, never heard of. Mappy Land? The fuck is Mappy Land? Fist of the North Star. Obviously, I've heard of Fist of the North Star, but I don't remember playing the NES game. Mystery Quest. Nah, bro. Taxon Video Diction? Oh, so you could send in high scores and they would record it? That's, man. For the low price of just $2, you can get all the latest information about all your favorite Taxon video games. So you had to send money and then wait 6 to 8 weeks for your first issue. Now, the younger listeners, obviously, you're like, that sounds crazy. What? Y'all seriously did this before the internet? Yes, yeah, we actually did. You would have to do stuff like this or just read a lot of magazines to even know what was coming out. I purchased so many games during this era just based off of how something looked, you know, just the box art. And it was kind of like buying albums back then. You just would know a single, for instance, and then purchase an album and the whole rest of the album might suck. So it mattered a lot more about presentation and about demos and things like that that could draw people in. And being a cover page or having a big spot in a magazine like this could really push units back then, you know? 1943, great top-down shooter. Racket Attack, just some generic ass tennis game. Ultima, of course. I've never played Ultima. I was never huge on games like this. They labeled it just as a hit, not a direct hit. This game is a little difficult to get started, which I have heard a lot about the Ultima series, but once you have progressed, you'll be able to explore uncharted areas. There's plenty to see and do. Bubble Bobble, a classic, one of those games that has been ported a million times and skinned a million times. This one's a direct hit. Gameplay is appealing and the action is definitely non-stop. Straightforward enough for novices, yet contains enough variety, strategy, and challenge to keep the best of us coming back. Those are the great puzzle games as far as I'm concerned. Bump and Jump, don't know. Ease. So this is the very first Ease. This is a series that I have very little experience with. I have Ease 8 and 9 that I'd love to play for the channel at some point. So if y'all are into the Eve series, let me know. Man, seasoned players are looking for more than just simple action adventure quest games being offered. Ease is a great example of how good this category can get. Damn, there you go. It's a hit. Rastin, name is familiar. I don't think I've ever played it. This was a Sega game. Look at this big single page for Phantasy Star. Of course, look at the types of stuff they highlight. It's pretty much all graphic related. Like these three pictures right here, 4 are really trying to impress upon you the graphics and how good it looks. And then, you know, this is just showing the overworld walking around. I love Phantasy Star 4. I know Phantasy Star 2 is beloved. It was so damn confusing though, especially when I was just a little kid trying to play it in the early 90s. It's still, I've tried to play it in recent years and I just can't get into it. I think it might be one of those games that it's just too old for where I'm at. Time Soldiers, don't remember this shit at all. Thunderblade, dope. That's a game that I played a decent amount on the Sega channel and always enjoyed it. The Atari 7800 games, definitely never played any of these, but look at the game of the month from Russia with Love. Tetris, the mark of excellence. Now, did I not say that this is probably the best game ever made, the best video game, single best video game ever made? I talked about this on a podcast recently, and I just feel like Tetris is the most distilled, perfect version of video games. Not my personal favorite game of all time, just when I think of the quintessential game, it's this. And Tetris came to the NES via Tengen back in 1989. To identify those games which display superior design, the US National Video Game Team, a collection of the world's best game players, have started an endorsement campaign to point out these games which deserve special attention. That's kind of dope. Who wants to create the US National Video Game Team again? And can I be the chair? Because I would like to sit on that. Player's seal of approval. It's your guarantee that the game you buy are of the highest quality available. Damn, look at that seal. It's official, guys. Tetris is special. Wow, it got 2 pages. Tetris is surprisingly easy to play. Goal is simple, yep. While Tetris won't win any awards for being a hard shooter or riveting adventure, it does capture a multitude of the play mechanics that make these types of games so appealing. Simple, but original gameplay. Man, when Tetris was still brand new. Think about that, y'all. Think about that. More Bishu peripherals. These are for Apple and IBM. Fascinating little trinkets, eh? F-19 Stealth Fighter. One of these games that probably was ultra hyped. I've never heard of it. It's listed as a direct hit. Absolutely outstanding. It was an IBM game. That explains why. Okay, so we're into computer games. So there's the IBM, Amiga, Hybris, never heard of. Zach McCracken, dope name, never heard of it. Double Dragon. Now, we've all heard of Double Dragon, and it's an absolute classic, but I don't know if the Commodore 64 version was good or not. Let's see. Immediately relieved when I read through the documentation and found that Double Dragon did indeed have the option for 2-player simultaneous play. That was a big deal back then because a lot of games couldn't do it in the 80s. It really didn't start popping up until the 90s with any consistency. After Trade West produced a very good 1-player version for the Nintendo. Yeah, the Nintendo version was single player. Had a lot of hope for the 2-player computer translation. Game does capture a lot of the fun. Most of the spontaneity and surprise are unfortunately missing. Nonetheless, a good translation of an incredible coin-op game. Do you play video games? Hell yeah, I do. I was subscribed to EGM for a very long time. We were an EGM in a PSM household. We went through some bouts of having Electronic Gaming Monthly 2. I was never a big OPM fan, but PSM for sure. Sword of Sedan. Why does that look vaguely like Michael or Janet? This face. Look at these graphics though on the Amiga. Never heard of this game. Actually, Maybe I have heard of it, but I definitely never played it. When I first began to play with Sword of Sedan, I had some initial trouble learning. Once I realized how to use the joystick controls, it became very simple tasks to reach the upper levels. Graphics are amazing. Yeah, they look at those big chunky sprites. Those are pretty cool. I have to check that out. Offshore Warrior looks like kind of a generic type of game. Year is 2049. I love when these years get closer and closer, and 2049 is closer to now than 1986 was to it then. So, or what am I even trying to say? Scratch that. I'm gonna edit that out. Near hit. So looks like it ended up being not that good. Here we go. Sega Mega Drive processor 68,000 with a Z80 on board. It was just released in Japan, no available numbers yet. Things are on cartridge. Expected US appearance. Expected price of $150 to $200. I'm sure that is more expensive than the Switch relative. Expected price of software, $30 to $80. Now look, we ain't about to get into the whole what should a game cost, but I do remember games being hella expensive back then, and especially like just randomly expensive, you know? They were already planning CD-ROMs, a drawing tablet. Never saw that. A keyboard, disk drive. So seems like some of the 32X and the Sega CD stuff ended up coming to fruition through there. Large 8-way pad with 3 buttons. The first true 16-bit console. Library of Mega Drive games is limited at this time, although Sega has announced plans to have more than a dozen carts available by mid-'89. Space Harrier 2, Super Thunderblade, Altered Beast, Wise from Your Grave. The initial games are only scratching the surface. The fact that the Mega Drive can expand into a computer with a disk drive may help broaden the base of support for the system. That's so fascinating because that took forever to even happen. And when it did, it was far from a computer by any means. Slipstream, never heard of you. One of the more mysterious pieces of 16-bit hardware, the Konix Slipstream. News to me. The Super Famicom, oh yeah. So it was about to release in summer of that year. Expected to be extensive, including most of the existing licenses. Probably not Tengen, who was suing. Rumors sometime in 1990. I believe the SNES did come out stateside in 90. $100 to $200. Software was unknown. Compatible with existing Nintendo carts? Is that true? I don't think there was any backwards compatibility for systems. Definitely not the SNES or the Sega Genesis. Game Boy, handheld. Crazy that was about to come out. Unit itself is shaped sort of like a Walkman. Yeah, like a cassette player. That is true. Oh, wow, look, there's a whole page for international scoreboards. So you could submit your scores and have them vetted and have them in the magazine. For info on how to submit, send a self-addressed stamped envelope. Had to be self-addressed and stamped so that they could send it back without having to pay anything. Let's see, what are some of the high scores that I would recognize for games? Contra, man, 2 million points. Sheesh, Galaga, Ghouls and Goblins, Pac-Man, R-Type, Shinobi. These are some hard games. Respect. So these are all coin ops, and there's pinball, there's home stuff. Let's see, what were people getting? Outrun, dang, 54 million? Set back in 88. Shout outs to Danny Lee, man, of San Jose. That's a hell of a number. Game over. The guns have cooled and the last alien ship has fallen near a laser. The end is not in sight. So they were hyping us up for what was coming next issue. Special strategy supplement for various games. The ultimate gaming machine. Plenty of talk about a flurry of new games. Take a look at what's to come and what could be. If we could design our own console, ooh, nice. Find out what we'd include and get another preview of what's to come from Nintendo, Sega, and others. The CES preview, Computer Entertainment Summit, I think. world's largest forum of video and computer gaming. Plus, dozens of video game and computer software reviews, US National Video Game Team's Game of the Month there to compare who has the best Double Dragon. Press start, gaming gossip, new contests, and more. Damn. And now look at that. Right there, we got SNK talking about Iron Tank and Akari Warriors 2. Those were coming soon to a living room near you. On the back, we got our homies from Bishu yet again. They got the Zoomer, the Zinger, Ultimate Super Stick. Hot Stuff. Okay, why does Hot Stuff look... I'm gonna say it looks a little bit like a dildo. Oh, Viper might actually take the cake for dildo-shaped product. Oh, the wireless. All the features of our standard Ultimate with no wires. Now, I'm curious what that worked on and how many damn batteries it would take to run that thing. The jazz stick. So, one of the things that I miss about older times in gaming is just how weird shit used to be. You would never see stuff like this now. Everything's so polished and well put together. You would never have Hot Stuff that looks dead on like something that you might use late at night. But oh wow, the Zinger too. All these joysticks are looking hella phallic in a good way though, you know. So that is EGM Volume 1, the very first issue of EGM. I don't know about y'all, but I enjoyed looking through that. I have such fond memories of reading game magazines in general. I, of course, never saw this one because I was still basically shitting myself. But I love that we have the EGM compendium and this little side mission where you can read through all of the EGMs. So stay tuned because I would love to do more of these. And if you have any specific issues or anything that you'd like to see in this series of me reading through EGMs, definitely let me know down below. And also let me know, what was your favorite gaming magazine of the era? Were you an EGM fella, a PSM girly, a Game Pro homie? Let me know because I would love to talk all about video game magazines with you. So if this inspired you, if you dug it, make sure you leave that like, subscribe if you wanna, and if you don't, then you know, kick rocks. But thanks as always for listening and watching. Your boy the Gamersician will be back very, very soon. Peace.